The early 20th century. The world was just beginning to recover from the devastating effects of World War I. After the war, the United States, in particular, had become the center of a new era. Industry was booming, cities were growing, and stock markets were breaking record after record. The 1920s went down in history as the Roaring Twenties. Jazz music echoed through the streets, cars were everywhere, and people believed that prosperity would last forever. But beneath this glittering facade, a great storm was brewing. Chapter 1: The False Glow of Prosperity. Production in America had increased rapidly. Ford's assembly line production method had made cars cheaper, and everyone could own one. Household appliances, radios, telephones, these were symbols of modern life. However, this prosperity was not based on solid foundations. Many companies' profits had been exaggerated, and their shares had become much more valuable than they actually were. The stock market had turned into a casino. Millions of Americans were buying stocks on credit. These debt-financed stocks only created wealth on paper. Newspapers carried the American Dream on their front pages every day, and no one thought this dream could turn into a nightmare. Chapter 2: Black Day, October 24, 1929. And then that day came. Thursday, October 24, 1929. Stocks began to fall on the New York Stock Exchange. At first it was thought to be a minor tremor, but panic quickly spread. Investors scrambled to sell their shares. There were no buyers. Within minutes, millions of dollars vanished. This day went down in history as Black Thursday. Then came Black Monday and Black Tuesday. The stock market collapsed. $40 billion in value disappeared within a week, an unimaginable figure for that era. The heart of the American economy stopped. Major companies went bankrupt, banks closed, and millions of people lost everything overnight. Chapter 3: The Years of Unemployment and Despair. The years following 1929 were a dark period for humanity. The unemployment rate reached 25%. This meant that 1 in every 4 Americans was unemployed. Families who lost their homes began living in tent cities. Bread lines grew longer and longer. Landless farmers abandoned their fields and migrated west. The press called this period the Great Depression. Not only America, but the world economy also suffered from this collapse. International trade came to a standstill. Factories closed in Europe, and unemployment and hunger spilled into the streets. In Germany, the crisis shook the already fragile Weimar Republic. In the years that followed, this economic collapse paved the way for the rise of radical ideologies. Hitler's rise to power was made possible by this atmosphere of despair. Chapter 4: Roosevelt and the New Deal. In 1933, a new leader took office in America, Franklin D. Roosevelt. Roosevelt launched a bold plan to combat the crisis. This program was called the New Deal. For the first time, the state actively intervened in the economy. Public investments provided jobs for millions of people. Dams, roads, and bridges were built. Banks were reorganized, and the stock market system was placed under strict supervision. Public confidence was gradually restored. These policies did not create miracles, but they got America back on its feet. Roosevelt's famous quote summed up the spirit of the era. "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." Chapter 5: The Changing Balance of the World. The 1929 crisis was not merely an economic crisis. It was a turning point that fundamentally changed the world order. The weaknesses of capitalism were revealed more clearly than ever before. Many countries redefined the role of the state in the economy. Social policies, workers' rights, and insurance systems became widespread during this period. However, not every country followed the same path. In countries such as Germany and Italy, economic collapse led to the rise of authoritarian regimes. Thus, the shadow of the 1929 crisis indirectly paved the way for World War II. Chapter 6: After an Era. By the 1940s, the world was once again drawn into war. But this time, The war was fueled not only by political rivalries but also by economic wounds. The Great Depression had taught people an important lesson. Without economic stability, political stability is impossible. The international economic order established after the Depression, the IMF, the World Bank, and trade agreements, was created with the same goal in mind: to prevent such a global collapse from ever happening again. Finally, the Great Depression of 1929 is remembered as one of the greatest economic disasters in history. The greed, lack of planning, and excessive confidence of an era turned the lives of millions of people upside down. However, it also marked the beginning of a more conscious and controlled global economy. In photographs from those years, we see people waiting in long bread lines, empty factory chimneys, and collapsed stock exchanges. But perhaps the most important legacy is this: for prosperity to be sustainable, the economy must be fair and balanced.